Connie, why are you sitting in your pantry? And wait, you can sit in your pantry. The last time we saw it, it was nuts. So let me go ahead and show you what I've done. I did not get something done every single day of put away for the Every Bits Counts challenge, but one of the things I did, and it did take me 2 days, was the bottom section of my pantry. Oh, look, right there. You can see my jars all nicely organized. This to me was as important as preserving the food, because if I can't see what I have or find it to use it, what's the use? So I put this as one of my things for my Every Bit Counts challenge. So let me go ahead and show you what I did here. So I got these cool shoe racks right here from Sam's Club. And I got 2 of them. And it goes all the way down. And they had it so you could click them together. So this one is a little bit taller, which is great. By the way, when I was cleaning stuff out, I found I have tomatoes from 2022 that I had no idea I had still. I went and bought canned tomatoes not that long ago because I thought I was out. So yeah, this was huge. Got all my vegetables, at least the first group of them I do have in my back storage. My carryovers or my extras. Here I'm working on my prepared foods, my broths. Over here is all my ugly meat and my bourbon chicken and teriyaki chicken. Quarts of vegetables. And then these, which I preserved this week, which I will show you soon. And then I've got my jams, all my beans. And down here, I'm not really sure what I'm going to put. That's a little bit of a difficult spot to get to. But I kind of got my carryover, extra broth, more full quarts of beans. So that's what we've got going on. So let me go ahead and show you what I preserved for this week. So for my first canning project for the week, it's green beans. I did purchase these green beans from the local farmer's market because the deer got my beans. And my dad was nice enough to go ahead and get all the ends and get them cleaned up and cut. And he actually put them in jars for me. I just had to pack them down tighter because you can't pack them down too much. You just really want to. I've seen some people recommend packing them down with a pickle packer, but I don't do pickles, so I don't have a pickle packer. So then I add in boiling water, and I'm just pushing them down some more, getting rid of the air bubbles, topping off for the 1 inch of headspace. And then I'm going to be cleaning these up, getting the lids on them, and getting them into the canner. And now we're just going to go ahead and place the 7 quarts that we have right into the canner. Now we've just waited for our 10 minutes of our solid steam, putting it in for 10 pounds of pressure. And once we come up to pressure here, which we're now up, we're going to be setting the timer for 25 minutes. And then we're going to let it naturally release and be taking the jars out of the canner. As you can see now, our jars are right out of the canner, still bubbling away. And then we'll be moving on to our next project. Now here's the next day. We've had some broth going for overnight, lots of green bean parts, and scraps that I had inside my freezer from things like carrot tops and onion peels, potato peels, and everything else you can imagine. Let this cook overnight. And now I'm just straining the wonderful broth right into the jars so I can go ahead and get it all packed up and ready to go. And so I'm just going ahead and finishing up enough of it to go ahead and fill up my canner, so that I can go ahead and get the pressure canner going. Now I'm just going to wipe the rims with vinegar water. I've got them all up to an inch ahead space. And there is a little bit of fat on the top of that. You can see there, but I'm not worried about that. It's just fine. It's not overly done. Okay, now that we're upside down and back right, we're putting our lids on, finger type. Well, trying to do it one-handed at least. Almost works. And then the next step we're going to do is go ahead and get these into the canner. All right, we've got all 7 in. Now we're going to get the top on and get it up to pressure. All right, and here's our finished project for the 2 days. 13.5 quarts of chicken broth and 8.5 of green beans. And now we're on to our next project, which I'm trying to do one-handed. And because I forgot my holder, I am doing the garlic. I'm getting it prepped. It's been drying on my porch for quite a while. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off the hairs. It's hard neck. And cut the ends, which, since I'm holding this crazily, it's not really showing well for you. But I think you get the idea now. I think I've got it a little bit better for you to see. Yep, just cleaning it off, taking the first layer of the dirty paper, and just prepping all of my garlic to be put in storage. And here's what my garlic turned out to look like. First year growing garlic, I think it was a pretty good little harvest. And so I've got this all prepped and I'll get it stored away. Next, I've got these carrots that I pulled from my garden, and we really like glazed carrots. So I'm going ahead and making a simple brown sugar syrup to go with these carrots. I cut them big because we like our big chunks of glazed carrots. I was able to get 3 quarts and a pint of carrots, raw packed them. And now I'm just adding the hot brown sugar water on top. And then I'll get these guys cleaned up and put in the canner. And so now that I have some extra space in my canner, can't ever just let it run with just like 4 things in it. So I've got some greens here. Most of this is kale and some of the beet greens. And I'm just really tightly packing them in these little half-pint jars. These half-pint jars will be just enough for Mark and I for a meal to go ahead and take the greens in the winter and just fry them up with a little bacon grease in them, some onions. It'll just taste like fresh as like summer. We don't eat greens a ton, but I'm just doing some up so that we have them when we're looking for. Can also go ahead and use these, drain them out, and put them in our breakfast bakes in the morning. But I'm realizing as I'm doing this first jar, it takes an awful lot of greens to pack these. So yeah, I definitely am going to need to go grab some more greens here out of the outdoor grocery store, aka the garden. All right, so now I'm back in with some Swiss chard I just pulled. I've got rainbow chard out there, and I'm just going ahead and I rinsed it off already once, and I'm just breaking off and putting in the water that I've got here. Not really too worried about any of this. You know, I don't use any chemicals out there. It's not dirty. I just pulled it out fresh. You know, 30 seconds in the house here. So just giving it an extra rinse. And then I'm just going to be breaking it up as I continue to pack the rest of these jars. And I end up getting 5 jars in total to go ahead and pack with greens to go in with my carrots so that I have a pretty full canner. And I've just thought about it that as I add the boiling water onto these, it's really going to pack it down more, continue to get all the air bubbles out. So I went ahead and grabbed my boiling water in my teapot and just started packing it in. Just get the air bubbles out as I'm going and see how much more I can pack in there. It was just amazing how much greens, because it's the first time I've done greens, can really pack down tight. Just fit tons and tons in there. A couple of the jars I didn't put nearly as much greens in, and when they came out of the canner, you could just really tell because there was like a good inch and a half of space at the bottom after the canning process. So yeah, the ones that I packed really tight definitely was well worth it. Although this is really hot, so it's kind of a challenge, you know, working on how much can I pack with hot water in there already. Glad I got my little debubbler to help push everything down. Because these do float, which even made it more fun. All right, so we're just finishing these up. And now we are getting the lids on and the rings on. And we'll be getting these greens into the canner with the carrots. And here they are. And so the next project, I took my carrot tops and I hung them up throughout the garage so I could make some green powder with them. And so now Mom and I are putting our onion tops that are green into the dehydrator, just using a pair of scissors and cutting them. And they're so kind as to fall through. I really thinking I need to get a dehydrator that doesn't have such big holes, but yeah, we got this whole thing filled up with green onions while we were waiting for all of this stuff to come out of the canner. And now we're out, and you can see with that one, the greens had quite a big space in them. But these glazed carrots look just perfect. I can't wait to try them. And so this is what we came up with, the 4.5 quarts of carrots. And so now I'm also going ahead and getting these pinto beans ready for refried beans. So I know it takes about a half a cup of dried beans to make a pint. So I am just going ahead and getting them set to fill with water and let them soak overnight for a night or two, changing the water every day. I am adding baking soda in. It helps break it down a little so they're not so farty. Then I just filled it with water and I soaked them overnight. I was thinking I was going to get to it the next day, but things came up, so I just changed the water. But yeah, so I wanted to get these all started for refried beans for prepping up because we didn't have any refried beans. And so the next day, instead of doing refried beans, I went ahead and decided to process all those onion green tops that came out of the dehydrator. And with these big holes, which I hate, but I love the dehydrator at the same time, it's a little bit of a challenge to get them into the blender. I've already got one bag, Ziploc bag, of them in, and that's somewhat easy to get into the blender when I'm paying attention. And so I basically just decided to go ahead and take off the trays and put them into the bag because that seemed to be easier than hitting the blender. But they still get everywhere. There's really no stopping it. Glad we had a nice clean counter and wasn't trying to do it in a small space. As you can see just by looking how much had already fallen down onto the base of the dehydrator. All right, so I've got my first batch full and got this really old blender that still works. So nope, not replacing it. Someday maybe. And found it was quite a challenge to get these to blend up because they're so light. There's not really much helping to push it down to make them start circulating. So I did have to shake it, take it out, tip it upside down a few dozen times. As you can see here, trying to get the blades, because such a fine powder, it was just really starting to get blocked up a little in there. So then I decided, oh, let's be smart and use a knife. I only hit the blade a few times. See, but it did start going down a lot better. As you can see here, it's really blending up pretty good. Couple last shakes and it'll be ready to put in my shaking container, which I buy these at Save-A-Lot. They're nice and big. And this one's about half empty. So I'm just adding my green onion powder on top of the onion powder that I already have in my jar. And really I caught a few big ones that didn't get picked out there. Also found that the bottom of the blender, there was quite a bit like packed in around the blades. So I had to loosen all that up. And then I'm just going to go ahead and fill it up again and let it start going. Decided to try pressing it down this time in the blender to see if that helped, which I think it did a little. It's always fun trying to get stuff through the funnel. But I love this green color, and the taste is divine. So now I'm just going to go ahead and get the next batch done, fill it up to the top, and I had more still, so I just went ahead and put it back into the Ziploc bag that I was storing the onion tops in for my first batch. So as you see here, pretty good for something that normally just goes to waste. And I use a ton of onion powder, so that's great to get all that done. And now I decided, since I got the dehydrator empty, time to get parsley going. So this yeah, just doesn't really seem to want to go in there. Oh well, forcing it to anyways. And it dried up beautifully, so, really packing this in wasn't a big deal. So now I'm going to get all 3 of my trays done up. These are going with parsley. You might say, oh, why do you only have 3 trays? Okay, this did come with 5 originally. 2 of them had broke. The little corners didn't click in anymore. They had a piece break off, and they just didn't dehydrate as well. So I got rid of those. So here we are with 2 trays of parsley. And as you see, I got some other herbs in there. So I'm going to go ahead and put my basil on top here. And I was really surprised at how small these basil leaves really did when they got smaller. And put that one thing of sage. I have a real small sage plant with just this year's seeds, so got to keep it growing. So got to use it. So next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is out of this pressure canning book, which I absolutely love. This is a couple days later, by the way. I am making those refried beans I promised. So first thing to do was get the beans boiling, which I did with whatever the recipe called for, which I can't even remember. I've got my jars heated up in the water in the canner. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab all those jars out. And then bring over the pan of beans. And I will try to leave a link to that book down below. So I am using a slotted spoon to start because I want to get all the beans in, and then I'm going to go back and fill them with all the juices here. But I really want to get the beans all packed in. And I guess I could pull out the book right here and tell you what all those seasonings were. I know I had them put out there, but... Okay, so refried beans. We got the water, non-iodized salt, onion powder, garlic powder, ground cumin, and black beans. And it's on page 78 of the Pressure Canning Book for Beginners and Beyond, which I'm loving this book. So then I'm just going to go ahead and fill all these up with beans. And then I'm going to take them up to the inch of headspace with those beautiful juices. Well, I knew the recipe called for 8 pints, but I'm always hoping for extras. And it looks like I had a few less beans than I probably should have. So my soaked beans was not the right guess because I only got 7 jars out here. Let me see, I think, let's see. 2, 3. Yeah, 7. Which is okay. These will be great come this winter. And this is a new recipe for refried beans for me, so I can't wait to use them. Because Mark's constantly buying the jars of them. And would like to just go ahead and just have them right at home. So now I'm going to get these in the pressure canner. You see a couple of them are not filled all the way to the top, so I'm just going to take some hot water and top them off the rest of the way. Or top them off a little too much. I love having my tea kettle with hot water to go ahead and just top these things off. It really is quite the easy way to do it because you don't necessarily have to use the funnel. It just makes it very convenient. And we see the one I did have a little bit too much in, so I had to grab my spoon and take some out. So if I would have left it in there, It definitely would have siphoned all over the place or not sealed. And here they are. All 7 of these beauties in the canner. And I'm just going to go ahead and try to get this top on one-handed, which is not very successful. And then once they come up to pressure, and I will be doing these for 75 minutes. Oh, I love seeing myself struggle. And here's the finished product. Now, don't those look beautiful? They just came out of the canner. Everything's sealed. Smell great. It's just a beautiful thing to have set aside. Being able to do it at home without all those preservatives and stuff in it. So thanks for watching Connie's Crazy World.